Hey guys, this is Ashley and Rest, and this is She Wolf Alchemy. And today we are talking about healing the mother wound.
Yeah. So first, let's even stop to break it down what we mean when we're talking about the mother wound, because
It
we're
sounds
talking.
very woo
Yeah. Because I feel like we hear people talking about daddy issues all the time, and like especially when it comes to women, we hear about daddy issues. We had an episode on daddy issues, but there is a such thing as having mother wounds as well. And I think when we hear that, we're often thinking about men, because we there's if you've been dating. There's been men out here that are saying and doing things, and you're like, this sounds like an issue for you to resolve with your mother. I think I am a surrogate. That's the thing that's out here happening in the dating world. But there are mother wounds for women as well. And when we're talking about mother wounds, we're talking about like emotional, psychological, even sometimes physical pain that is basically like inherited from our mothers. And the way that this can look, well, it can look a lot of ways, to be honest with you. But sometimes some girls grow up with mothers where mother is your first bully. Your mother
woo.
is the first person to hurt you. Your mother is your first competitor. Your mother is the first person to make you question yourself, how you look, how you talk, how you do whatever. And I don't think we talk about this because it's one of those taboo things. When you're a girl, you're supposed to have a good relationship with your mom. And when you don't, you kind of get hit with a lot of those, but you only got one mom. And she was a single mom and you don't know what she went through. Or, girl, it's hard being a mother. It is. It is. Let me knock on wood because I do have a daughter and it's going great now, but we ain't hit them 10 years. We ain't hit them 10 years. I'm very concerned about it. She's very independent, has a lot of opinions about everything. Uh, but you get those excuses, and it's like people don't want to talk about it. You talk about daddy issues, and everybody's like, yeah, yeah, they're horrible. Absentee fathers. And they are, they are. Word to Jimmy. But there's also mothers who are not great mothers, and we don't really get to talk about that. We don't really get to talk about the effect of that. And so this episode isn't so much to bash mothers. I'm a mother. Ashley is, what's up, mother? But this is to talk about those wounds that can happen when you and your mom don't have a great relationship. So, Ashley, are you familiar with this term?
I can only say I'm familiar in that I've heard of it. I can't say that I've taken like super deep dives into it and exploring all of its facets. I think you made a really good point in the fact that talking about your mother
Mhm.
or mothers in general is somewhat taboo because you're right. Like, that's supposedly the person who sacrificed it all. Even if they didn't do shit, they carried you. You could have a parent that didn't do nothing your whole life, and they'll still be like, "I was in labor for 36 hours bringing you into this world."
Mm, mm.
And for that, they should, get all of your reverence. And it's like, girl, okay. So I think you're
Really?
right in that it's not a conversation that is often had
Yeah.
as much as it's probably very real. And also a lot of times, to your other point, a lot of times the mom is the person who stayed, even if they weren't the most nurturing person, they were the person that stayed. Now that's not to say I've never seen
Mhm.
mother rooms. I think in my family, they're there. They exist. But again, we get the same speech of like, that's the person, or you know how your mom is.
Oh, oh, yes. I dated a guy who had one of those, that's just how my mom is, type of moms. And I hope that some lovely young lady with a lot of patience and just a really high self-esteem is hugging him right now. Because, yeah, the way, oh, that term is used, you know how she is, and how everybody just, you know how she is. Like cruel? Yeah.
Right.
We just ignore it. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, kind of swept under the rug. I think, and we get kind of a pass to be like, it's okay to be like, ain't shit, daddy, to call dad sperm donors and everything. But like, you can't be like the uterus that birthed me. Like, you can't say that. Like, people will look at you like
No.
you're crazy.
No, you're absolutely right. Your mom would have to have done something very heinous for
Mhm.
people to let that slide. Like you would have to give a disclaimer. Like, and the reason I say that, but if you're right, if you said my sperm donor, people are like, yeah, no, totally, no explanation needed.
Yeah, if you're just like the womb carrier, person that carry in their womb, you have to then follow up with, by the way, her episode is Snap season 4, episode 6. Like you have to give that disclaimer.
Right, 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 right. Okay.
So I know this is kind of difficult. Me and Ashley both have great relationships with our mothers. I think also me and you both have mothers where we came out the opposite of our mothers.
Mhm.
And we just had great mothers who was like, okay, okay, well, we're gonna figure this out.
Mhm.
We're gonna figure this out. So, I don't get it from a more so of a lived experience, but like Ashley said, I have definitely worked with a lot of individuals who have struggled with this, but also seen in real life and see how it plays out with people I know in real life. And I remember like just that moment I had that realization of like, oh, this is some mommy issues. This is some mother womb type stuff. And I think kind of like I was saying earlier, one of the like big things I usually see right away when we're talking about mother issues is mothers that competed with their daughters,
Mhm.
mothers that were envious of their daughters. And when I'm thinking about this, like if you're like, I don't really know what you talk about, think to me, the people that immediately come to mind when I'm speaking on this part of it, like think of Black China and Tony and her mama,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
where it's one party, usually it's the child who really wanted that love, really wanted that something's really trying to like make this relationship work. And you can just tell they hate that you're pretty. They hate
Mhm.
that you made something. They there is an envy
Mhm.
that just
Yeah.
seeps through. You don't have to do nothing. You don't have to be disrespectful. They're telling everybody you're disrespectful.
Mhm. Mhm. They will ruin your day, your accomplishments. Like I said, I've definitely seen that happen firsthand where someone was celebrating a monumental event in their life and their mother was the person to try to really just like shit on that event.
Yeah.
You know, make it like it's nothing. You think you all that type of stuff where it's like, what kind of, why would you say that to your child? What a healthy relationship looks like is that you would be happy for them to be accomplishing, even if they're accomplishing something greater than you were able to,
Yeah.
because that's what most parents want for their children, for them to succeed further than they did. That means you did a good job.
Yeah.
But some people just can't let that go, you know? And also I think some of it comes to again from their own wounds, right?
Yeah.
Like I wasn't able to climb like it's I remember seeing somebody explain it was a narcissist that was like, I'm a narcissist. Let me explain some tendencies, whatever. And I know, but he was
You know how I feel about the narcissist
I
on
know.
TikTok.
But what he was explaining was like how that feeling of jealousy towards your kids, even though you are the one that because you did what needed to be done, your kid was able to have a parent that you didn't have
Mhm.
and therefore was able to go further than you were able to go, but somehow you just still feel that upset and resentment like
Yeah.
look at you with your damn good mama that helped you go to college. I
Mhm.
didn't have that. Right. It's okay. But I did. And I'm grateful. Thank you so much. And so now I get to go off and do this thing. But they just, it's like a burning, like, I didn't get a chance. I had a child at blah, 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 blah. And I had to do this, this, and that. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, honey. But yeah. But I think it looks like, yeah, that like envy can come out in those ways where it's like you can't never celebrate your birthday. You can't never have a, proper your promotion can't even get a good oh good job, you know what I'm saying? They got
Mhm.
something negative to say about it.
Yeah. I mean, it is like so crazy to me when I come across situations where like there are parents who will literally try to steal opportunities away just so they can't have it. Like you said, like you have to hide promotions, you have to hide how much money you make, you gotta hide certain things because they will literally come after it. they will literally come after it. I'm thinking about there was like a video on social media a couple years ago of a mother who wore a white, basically wedding dress to her daughter's wedding. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why? Like, this is supposed to be like, this is my baby girl. This is her big day. I'm so excited for her. I'm so, and like, could not understand it. Like, could not understand it. Was just like, what? It's a wedding. I never got to wear a wedding dress before. And I was just like, you can step back for one moment for
Mhm.
your baby to have this day. And you see this a lot in those type of dynamics. And sometimes it's not always like that crystal clear. But I'm even thinking of, I had a friend who, when I was going to school, needed their mother to like sign off on some financial aid stuff because they were underage. And she was doing good. Like,
Mhm.
she was winning awards. She was like doing really good. Like she was getting certain internships that people were getting. She was in a different discipline than me, but like she was like really knocking it out the park, and like was telling her mom and everything. And I remember her calling me and telling me like, "Oh, I can't wait to tell my mom." And she told her mom, and it went great. And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And then like a couple weeks later, like we need to like refill out financial aid stuff, and her mom straight up wouldn't. She's like, "What? You be winning all those awards, right? You got all those mentors, right?" And then like insinuated certain things, by the way. It's like, you got those mentors. How you get those mentors? Why don't you ask those mentors to help pay for some things?
Mm.
And I remember like, because we had this conversation, and at the end of the day, she was like, honestly, that's my fault. Knew I shouldn't have told her. Everything in our history told me that this is what was going to happen. I really shouldn't be surprised. And of course, I'm like 19 at the time, so I didn't deep dive, but yeah, like you
Mhm.
have to have certain rules around them on
Mhm.
how to interact with them to keep yourself safe. It's not safe interacting with these type of mothers.
Mhm. Or even it looks like scaring you away from, which some people just scare you away from stuff because they actually do care and they're living out their fears. But literally, it can also look like that too, like throwing their insecurities on you or making it seem like it'll be, well, if you do that, it's going to be like really, really
Hmm.
hard. You should probably just stay home with me and maybe not take that big step.
Hmm.
I don't know. It should be like I remember working with a young lady, a teenager, and it took so much to boost her up to get her to where she was like, yeah, yeah, I can do this thing. Like I'm gonna go off. I'm gonna get my own place. I'm gonna da 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 da.
Hmm.
And oh my god. And then she came back and it was like, well, my mom really da 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 da. And what killed me was when she was trying to when she was trying to launch, like get out the house, do her own thing, blah blah blah. Mom had no help. Mom couldn't help her fill out a piece of paper. Mom couldn't help her figure out how to get her car fixed. Mom couldn't help with a damn thing. But once she was able to start shifting her to maybe you should stay home and I'll help you do this. And then I'll help you do that. And then we can do this and we can do that. And it was like, I could just see it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it was so disheartening and so frustrating, and to just, and of course that's your, I think the hard thing is that's your mom, right? You
Yeah.
assume this person wants what's best for me, or you hope that even when you're seeing evidence that contradicts it, it's like, no, of course, yeah, she's saying this because it's the right thing. And it's like, girl, your mom is trying to drag you back through the
Look,
mud with her. That's what she wants to do.
one of the biggest things I believe most people can do as a part of their healing journey, I had to do this as well, but like learn how to not get guilted by shame and guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, like learning how to not let, you cannot guilt me into anything I don't want to do. You can't peer pressure me to anything I want to do now.
Mm-hmm.
But that is a very powerful tactic used in families, guilt.
Mm-hmm.
So what would
Mm-hmm.
I do without you? But if you hear, and I really want
It's gonna
us to
help.
do, yeah, I really want us in Black communities and other communities as well. But I ain't gonna touch on y'all problems. I'm gonna touch on ours. In Black communities, I really want us to do a lot. I want us to have a lot of education on enmeshment in families because
Mm.
we don't recognize a lot of stuff that we keep passing down to generations as enmeshment. And that's exactly what that shit is.
Mhm.
Especially for my women who managed to get out, get to, Leave home, get super independent, hyper independent,
Mm-hmm.
because you like get hyper independent and then end up in these codependent relationships where you're the one that's dependable. And then
Mm-hmm.
you end up in this cycle, and it's like, and I don't know why I fall for these type of men, because this has been your role, and since you were a child, for you to be the emotional safety one, to you to be the emotionally stable one, for you to be like and I say this a lot of times in therapy, the healthy way for a parent-child relationship to work is that the parents are supposed to grow around the child. When you're in a dysfunctional family, sometimes what happens is that children learn how to grow around their parents, and it's not healthy. It teaches you to minimize your needs and learn how to walk around folks who are supposed to be there to support you,
Mm-hmm.
to get your needs met. And usually it's not even to get your needs met, it's to make sure their needs are met. So they are calm enough that it does not interfere with your peace.
Mm-hmm.
Your peace is keeping them calm. And
Mm-hmm.
then we grow up, we get older, we live by ourselves, and then we wonder why I don't know peace within myself, or I don't know how to have peace with the other people because it was never practiced with us. Or we spent so much of our childhood trying to teach adults coping skills, be emotional support animals. We had this episode, be
Mm-hmm.
emotional support animals for the parents or for the auntie, the grandma, whoever. And I just really want us to have just better education around enmeshment in families. Because there's
Mm-hmm.
just so many things I feel like I hear all the time. You're like, well, because it's black folks. I'm like, it's the dysfunctional families. That has nothing to do with being black.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Another way that a mother wound can be inflicted is with a just a lack of nurturing,
Yeah.
not having your needs met. Because one, of course, your parents are supposed to be the people to do that, but particularly that role does typically fall to the mother to be that person, since that's who we're specifically talking about today. So when you feel uncertain, I had someone say to me recently, like, you grew up knowing your mom loved you. I didn't grow up with that. I
Yeah.
don't know that my mom loves me.
Yeah.
It's uncertain.
Hmm.
And those types of things can be brought on by like make huge inconsistencies. I say one thing, I do something else.
Hmm.
Tell you I love you, but I'm not really treating you like I love you. Um, it can be inflicted honestly just by your mom's own stuff, right?
Hmm.
Like their own inconsistency and inability to provide a stable life for you,
Yeah.
can bring out so much insecurity in adulthood that we don't even recognize until you're like, man, what? Well, you didn't have a very stable home environment. You didn't know what each day was going to look like. You didn't know what thing was going to be. If you said this today, was it? And this is like a big thing I would tell even when I worked with parents of like, it it can't be that today they make this comment and it's funny and then they say it tomorrow and they get smacked.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really inconsistent, and it's really scary to grow up in that type of environment when you don't know what's coming next.
Yeah. As you are saying that, I'm thinking of like also parents or mothers where it feels like the only time I get validation and praise is when I'm doing something in line with what you want. Outside of that, it feels like you could care less. That develops in you this sense of I'm only lovable when I fall in line. I'm only lovable because of my ability to produce. My ability to produce what depends what they ask you to produce. And that's important. Reason I want to definitely bring that one up because the way that follows you into relationships, the way that follows you into the type of partners you pick, and having relationships where it feels unfulfilling to you because you feel like you're always trying, you always have to you always have to earn love, that love isn't given to you freely, that you aren't lovable because of who you are. You have to do certain things to make yourself lovable. I have to sacrifice my needs to be lovable because that's what you did in childhood. I sacrificed having needs. I was there to support your needs. I had very minimal needs, and that's what makes me lovable. That type of shit will follow you into relationships.
No, I'll just add that goes for men and women, and
Hmm.
all of these things go for men and women.
Yeah.
That these are ways that they're inflicted. Another way these wounds can be inflicted is just plain being mean.
Hmm.
Some people just have really mean moms. That's their first bully. They are the first person to have something negative to say. You thought you looked cute. And here I am coming to talk to you about your weight, your hair, your outfit that you, oh my gosh. It's, as I'm saying it, it's like bringing up, I'm like thinking of all the teens that were like, I don't show my arms because my mom said this or this. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, and even I have family members who dealt with this where even the way they walk and hold their posture is changed by the many comments that were made by their mother
Yeah.
as they were going through puberty. Like, oh, you're like this, oh, your boobs are like that, or you're this and and it's like, and then you could just see them like physically trying to draw into themselves,
Yeah.
physically trying to not stand out because of the amount of critique that they constantly got from their mother.
And let's be very clear here. I'm thinking of, as you were talking, I'm thinking of an episode that you had on your podcast, Parents Are People. You had an episode where your guest talked about their mom being someone who joked a lot, but it was very sarcastic. And I think a lot of times in families, we pass that off like they joking. Why are you so sensitive? And they're like, I'm not being mean because I'm playing. A kid needs to know, like, if all that, if that's, first of all, if all that's your, if that's all you're providing, then how do they know that's just joking? Because it's not like you're providing them with nice words too. It's not like you're providing them with care and tenderness too. But also, you need to check in with, if they feel like that's hurtful, then it's hurtful. It doesn't matter your intent behind it. What did the delivery do? The delivery handed in a punch, then it handed in a punch. I don't care if you thought it was giving them flowers, you punched them with the damn flowers in your hand. Um, and I think I remember listening to the episode. And that was such a good and powerful episode because, yeah, I know many examples like that where they're just like, well, I'm just sarcastic, and they'll get used to it. And what if they don't? This is your child. And I feel like that's one of those ways that gets sneakily by, where it is just mean. It's just mean. And it's one of those mean things that, again, people let fly under the radar because we get to say, nah, it's jokes. Like, no, it was mean. It was mean then, it's mean now. And the impact was one like a bully.
People constantly joking has really become a pet peeve of mine. I'm just like, just say what you mean and stop all this like back talk and sarcasm and all these other things. Because, like you said, it really it masks a different intention. Like, if you really meant to give a compliment, then just give a compliment. Why are you giving a backhanded comment and being like, oh, she know I'm just joking.
Mhm.
No, they don't know. And after enough of them, every joke got a little bit of truth to it as well. And we know that.
Mhm.
Everybody knows that. No one is, you know, come on now.
Yeah.
And then if you're catching it from all angles, because I'm a big like, home is supposed to be safe.
Look.
And so if you're catching it from all angles, you go to school, they call you big head. At home, they call you big head. Over here, they call. At some point, you like, man, I got a big ass head. Like, yeah, I
Mhm.
have to. How could I not think that when everybody is saying it?
Yeah. And I love that, highlighted, put on a poster. Yeah, home is supposed to be safe. If nowhere else in the world is safe, it should be home. It should be home. Home should not be where I feel the most anxious. And unfortunately, it's a lot of us out here that feel comfortable everywhere but with our family.
So yeah, just being like plain mean spirited jokes, mean commentary, constant critiquing and criticism. Oh my God. Also, coming home with nothing but meanness. They wasn't with you. They didn't
Mhm.
go to work with you and piss you off, but you didn't came home and like I again, I definitely know the feeling of somebody coming home and just da 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 da. You like, oh
Mhm.
God, here they go. Let me go in my room. Let me get out of the way because I don't want to get hit
Yeah.
with with everything that you just came home with. So that kind of stuff is another thing. Like, just you mad at something that happened elsewhere, and you come and you bring it home and target everybody in the house. And so, yeah, a lot of people have grown up in households like that, where they just, like you kind of said, they learn how to adapt and maneuver around. They learn how to dictate everything that they do around their mother's mood.
Yeah. Ooh, yes. Yes. Ooh. when there's like a family member, whether it's the mother or father, I know we're talking about mothers right now, but
Mhm.
like how your day goes depend on what mood that person's in. That is terrifying as a child.
You got some start their morning off. I remember, like I said, I remember working with parents. I remember one time I was sitting in my office. I had my window open, and I used to get to work at like 6:30 because we
Mhm.
had to be there before the kids went to the bus stop.
I have
Yeah,
never known you to be early for things ever. Oh, look at you. Like
it was because I had that job for so long that I was like, you know what, never again. But I used to have to be there before the kids went on the bus to make sure that their parents walked them to the bus stop. It was a whole thing. And I remember having my window open and hearing this woman just, oh, she was just cussing that little boy out the whole way to the, yo ass. I gotta walk you to this goddamn bus stop. Da 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 da. Just, first of
Mhm,
all, who was responsible for getting their kids up and ready that morning?
mhm.
It was your responsibility. And I called her in my office as soon as she could get in here pregnant. So how would you like if I cuss you out first thing in the morning on your way to school? She was like, well, you know, I was just frustrated. No, ma'am. Absolutely not. Nobody deserves to be spoken to like that. First thing in the morning. First of all, your child doesn't deserve to be spoken like that anyway. But first thing in the morning on his way, you just sent him to school in a bad mood because you woke up in a
Mhm.
bad mood or because you didn't get up on time to do the things that you needed to do. She
Yeah.
was like, so what you want me to apologize to him? Yes, I do. I do want you to apologize. Y'all always
Apologize to
try
y'all kids. Can I just hold on? Let me just
to
apologize. There's somebody who I personally know who I thought was like a sane, like just level-headed, like, person. And I'll say this quickly. I'm friends with people that have a lot of different opinions than me. And so like having different opinions is not an issue for me. I know sometimes be like, nah, you think this, we keep be friends. Like, no. But there's certain opinions though, I'm just like, and I
Mm-hmm.
gotta pull back from. And then this is what I had to like really think about. She gonna listen to the podcast later and be like, what? We were almost not friends. But we had I can't remember what it was, but they went off on their child in front of me, like, and it was like I had to step in. I
Mm-hmm.
was scared. Like I put my hands in my pockets and was like, yes, ma'am. Like I was terrified. And I had to step in at some point because I was like, yo, what? And then did it match the situation?
Mm-hmm.
And so the child, went upstairs, went to their room, and like me and them are talking. I was like, you know what, you right, my bad. I'm sorry. I was tripping. I'm angry about some of this other stuff. And they just did this thing. It was just the last thing for me. I was like, all right, well, go up and apologize. And she's like, I don't apologize to children. And I was like, what? And she was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I don't know. I know you went into that new age parenting. But, like, I don't because and then, like, went on this whole thing about, like, hierarchy in parenting. It was have you ever watched that one show with the guy that was, like, the dog whisperer? And it was just
Mm-hmm.
always like, "You gotta be the leader of the pack. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what the conversation felt like. It was just like,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I mean, you bigger than them and you pay the bills. Like, I think they know. Like, I think it was beyond me. But anyways, you just said that, and I just want to throw that out there. Apologize to these children. Also, like, you are modeling to them relationships.
Absolutely.
Like, even if it's just like, okay, but I don't want to, if anything, so when you send them out into the world with the rest of us,
Mm-hmm.
so they can be civilized,
Right.
like, we are modeling to them how to form relationships. Apologize to these babies.
I'm stuck on the hierarchy. People love to treat children like they are second class citizens, and it's like they're people. Where do you get this from? So because they don't have the ability to go work and get a job.
Look, look, and bell hooks has gotten me into more arguments than I would like to admit.
Okay.
I gotta stop talking about her and her books
Okay.
because it just gets me into things. But I remember like when you wanted to do All About Love, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the things like you brought about, you was like, I really love the way she breaks down like how we treat children. And she does have like a really good chapter like on spanking, basically. It's basically on like, did we spank? And me and Ashley were in a book club, was another girl with us, and we talked about it. And it was interesting because like all of us in theory are like, yeah, you should not spank children. But all of us that have like parented children was like, but you know, like what degree of spanking are we talking about? Like
Lord
And
have
it's
mercy.
hard. It's like
Mhm.
but anyways, I bring it up to say, like, I do think we need to challenge the way that we think about parenting and so forth. I think a lot of times until you are about to be a parent or you become a parent, there's so many things that you don't think about
Mhm.
and you just instinctively do. The situation present itself, and then you have to stop and look and be like, yo, where did that come from?
Mhm. Yeah, if you were treated under the guise of like the person that's bigger and stronger has to say so, then like of course you would. That's what I think for a lot of people, they were treated a certain way as when they were kids. So then when they become an adult, it's like, yeah, I'm not going back and forth with no child. I'm not apologizing to no
Mhm.
child. I'm not this and this and that to no child. Even when we talk about when a person feels disrespected, a lot of times they'll say, don't treat me like a child. Don't treat me like I'm a child,
Yeah.
which means I feel like you just disrespected me. I feel like you just spoke down to me. And
Mhm.
isn't that crazy?
That
Like,
is.
that's really crazy to think of how those two are used synonymously. There's a term I learned earlier this year, childism, and it kind of it breaks that down. It
Okay.
breaks that down.
You have to discuss that a little bit later. The childism.
Yeah, it's that's the whole thing. But it is this idea of like, oh yeah, we're better than them. We're better than children, and that's why they get to be treated like second class citizens. But there's a whole thought process that goes along with this. Fascinating. But anywho, um, yeah. So that apologize to your kids and treat them like humans, please.
Yeah, that's but can I throw in also, but going back to like the modeling thing, like, yes, because also then you speak that way, then it gets passed on. Like, again, you're not gonna treat me like no child. I'm gonna not apologize to children, whatever, whatever. But like, also, again, going back to that whole modeling thing, again, if you grow up, like, I know something I personally had a breakout of myself, and I had great parents, but they had me in their Christian phase, and it was just really, really not a fun time. Just not a fun time. But my parents were pastors for a lot of my childhood, and, like, one of the things is, like, they were really big on, like, I had to present a certain way. Like, "You're the pastor's daughter. You have to speak a certain way. You have to present a certain way," and that shit followed me. That shit took a lot of time, a lot of therapy, money, books and podcasts for me to get out of because and I still have little things. I still have little things that I do where they're like, "Why you have to do that?" And I'm just like, "Presentation." And you're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
why are you
Mm-hmm.
doing that?" And I think I've told you, like, makeup is one of them. That was a
That was the first thing that came to my mind because you do have
Mhm.
a thing about that. And what I think what always throws me off about it is that you don't wear heavy makeup or you don't
I
wear
know.
makeup to the point that it alters how you look.
Yeah.
But also maybe I just ain't never seen you without it because apparently
I
women
have
aren't supposed
spent a
to
night
not wear
drunk over
it.
your house a couple of nights. You have definitely seen me without
But I'm
makeup.
just like so every time you're like, it is unprofessional to
I
exist without
know.
makeup. I'm like, unprofessional? What an
I
interesting
know.
like
I know, and I know it sounds bad, and I don't promote it among others, and of course, out loud, I'll be like, "Yeah, no," but I can't do it. I can't do it. I tried once recently, like, I had to go to this thing, and I was like, "I'm just not gonna wear makeup today," like, I just don't feel like it. I was having skin issues anyway, I was like, "I don't wanna irritate it," and, like, I got in a car and everything and just stopped. It was I mean, just a little blush and foundation, I mean, concealer, and we're good. We're good. Like it's a thing that was oh my gosh, there's so many weird rules that are just like embedded in me. I'm just fighting out to break out of. But even like I'll tell you an example. I think I've used this example before, but like I remember my dad is really big on sir. Like you have to say sir.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And like I would get in trouble if I'm like, yeah, who just said yeah without saying sir? And like I would get in trouble. Like my heart would sink. And when I went to go buy my first car, my dad, of course, came with me, and the guy was talking to me, and it was an older white guy, and we were like trying to negotiate. I was like, well, sir, blah blah blah, blah. And the guy at some point had to get up and go get coffee or something. And my dad was like, I'm not gonna call this white man sir. Like, what? Stop with this. You got the money and like went off on me. And I was
I'm confused about the rules.
very confused about and I was like 18 at the time too. I was like, know what's happening here.
Mhm.
For the last, like, 10 years of my life, I've been getting yelled if I did not say sorry. I don't know what you want me to do here. But it was one of those moments where I was just like,
That's funny.
"Yeah, y'all inconsistent." Anywho, so let's talk a little bit about like how some of these wounds can manifest in adulthood. I think the first one is obvious. It is low self-esteem. And this is can go for either parent and this can go in multiple ways. But if the person who I am told and I feel innate in me is supposed to love me and I was never sure,
Mhm.
that is gonna mess with your self-esteem.
Mhm.
If the person who I've been told my whole life is supposed to love me refuse to, how can someone else love me? I
Mhm.
look like her. I talk like her. I act like her. And she doesn't even love me. How am I supposed to ask someone else to love me? And that can even go back to, and so how can I love me?
Mhm.
It, I think the biggest manifestation is it really impacts the way one feels about themselves.
Mhm. Mhm. And even feeling just unworthiness.
Mm,
Again, when certain needs aren't met, it's like, well, maybe I don't deserve those things, or I don't need much, or I shouldn't have this, or I have seen women in their 50s struggling with feeling worthy
mhm.
because of how they were raised
Yeah.
and just not having their emotional and basic needs met when they were a child. And now and then it grew into, their time ain't worth nothing. They're nothing that they want is worth actually going for or having. That goes along with that low self-esteem too. Like claiming, take up space. It's
Love.
okay. You
Yeah.
you get to be here. You deserve this. They like struggle with that when you have a low self-esteem or a low self-worth.
And I think even going back to what I talked about a little bit earlier is struggling with a lot of guilt and struggling with a lot of shame. One of the breakdowns I like to do is what is the difference between guilt and shame? Because I think we just sometimes use them interchangeably, but they're not. Guilt is there is like a rule or there is something that I agree is wrong and I did it anyways. I did the thing that is wrong, and I agree that it's wrong, and so I feel guilt. Shame is I am the thing that is wrong. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter. It's not about the circumstance. It's about me. Something in me is wrong. And so I heavily feel that. And a lot of times we get stuck in these cycles of either guilt and shame. Shame going back to that self esteem. If I don't feel love, if I don't feel valuable, I will feel like I am the thing that is wrong. But with that guilt, kind of like we were talking about earlier, a lot of times in these dynamics, there is a lot of guilt. There's a lot of, I am your mother. Look at how, especially when people want to go no contact, when people are like, I don't want to deal with this no more, they get guilted. Or when they are like, I already paid your rent. What do you mean you need 500 more dollars? I'll raise you by myself. Your daddy wasn't here. And they struggle with that guilt. And I think sometimes we think of guilt as just one of these like swelling type of feelings, but guilt does a lot of harm to you.
Mhm.
A lot of times when I'm working with folks and we're struggling with anxiety and depression, the root cause of is guilt.
Mhm.
You are always anxious because you feel like you are always failing at meeting other people's needs and
Mm.
protecting other people.
Mm.
Depressed because you feel like you are responsible for these folks who hurt you, who abandoned you, who did so many cruel things to you, and you still feel beholden to them.
And it can also look like having a hard time just setting boundaries, being
Yeah,
able to set aside things for yourself, being able to tell people no because you feel like, well, if I don't, then they won't like me, then they won't love me, then they won't this, then I am unworthy. And
yeah,
having to jump through all these hoops when again you have the right to set a boundary, you have a right to your time. I tell people all the time, I don't care if you tell them no because you just want to sit around and play with your toes.
mhm,
That's your business. You do not have to bend over backwards. But a lot of people feel that it's like, but I gotta,
yeah.
I gotta.
That is one thing, y'all. Ashley is an expert at. Ashley will. I gotta tell you this. Ashley disappeared. If you do not text Ashley before 5 p.m. on Friday, you won't hear from her till Monday. She does not care what's happening. Ashley be in her own world. She's like, "My weekends for me and my babe." just and just go about
Whatever.
her life. And I'm
Oh,
always just like, "Oh, 'cause I'm a crack. I'm a crack." Yeah, I got do not disturb with like 10 people through.
I don't know. Ha- Yeah, interesting. And that. Yeah, I'm all for the boundaries. I love them. It's called self-care. And but also I have great friends who respect my boundaries, but I think if they didn't, we wouldn't be great friends because I'm okay with people falling off, honey. It's okay. That's self-care as well. Um,
And I think one of the other ones I think I see a lot of is this is a wound that can really make it hard for you to be emotionally available. This is a wound that also it can make it even feel like you yourself are hard to love because of some of the traumas that comes with having a mother wound and so forth. Kind of like I talked about a little bit earlier, sometimes when people break away from that, they develop hyper independence because they're like, nope, I won't ever want to have to depend on nobody. I don't want to ever have to feel like I'm tied down to something that makes me feel guilt and shame and blah, blah, blah. We develop this hyper independence. So then, even when we're going out here and we're saying things like, I want love, we're saying things like, I want to settle down and so forth, we get into these relationships and then we keep people at a distance because we never learned how to practice peace and community. A lot of times, what happens is you run away from those type of situations and you learn how to isolate and then you find peace in your isolation and then that feels really really safe, and then when it's time to come out here and get community, you get that anxiousness again because being in community reminds you of being back in that place where you were hurt, being back in that place where you did not grow, where you felt suffocated, and so you built up a wall, you built up a way of like, let me separate this a little bit because it's safer, it feels safer to love at a distance.
Another way it can manifest itself is feeling like you have to be an overachiever.
Mm,
I think that also can go along with kind of the hyper independence you were talking about too. And again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to achieve great things, but
mhm.
when it comes from a place of feeling again unworthy or feeling like I have to always be at the top. I have to always be in my P's and Q's. So much so, and I see it in a lot of people who are what we consider overachievers, where it's even when you hit that benchmark, you
Love.
still can't enjoy it. You still can't appreciate it. It's still not enough.
Mhm.
It's because of this feeling like, well, I have a friend who struggles with this. It's like, you did it. I'm like, you did it. Congrats. Like, well, that's what I was supposed to do. And I shouldn't receive praise for doing something that I'm supposed to be doing. It's like, okay, friend, like I was just trying to say, you did good, but that's like a thing for
Yeah.
for some people, to where even when you're hitting certain benchmarks, you just don't feel worthy of the
Mm.
praise that you're receiving, or you feel like you have to keep doing more. What you just did wasn't enough. And yes, of course, that can come from many factors, but because of the topic.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, definitely that overachieving. I mean, and just that, trying to fill emotional holes with things and people. A lot of times that's what that is, that high expectation, that perfectionism, that I have to do more, I have to do more, it's not enough. Yeah.
I would also them because there's overachieving, but then also maybe even underachieving. Like I think about people who again feel like they don't deserve to have that next best thing or whatever thing it is. When it's like, hey, you could, their job might be trying to offer them a promotion. And they're like, why me? I mean, I'm trash. I don't really deserve to have this or that. Or you make enough money to buy yourself that nice thing that you want. Oh, I come from this and that, and I just really don't think that I should. What do I look like going somewhere like that, or wearing something like that, or eating things like that? Whatever the case may be, there are a lot of people holding themselves back from greatness because they've been told. Hell, a lot of us deal with that, even just from families in general. Just like, oh, you think you too good, you think you too this, you think you too that. But yeah, but that little voice sitting in their head that keeps telling them like, you don't fit there, you don't belong in that space, you don't deserve to have those things. So stay quiet, sit back, don't even try for it.
Yeah. So let's talk about what can be done to heal some of these wounds. I think the first part, of course, is awareness and acknowledgement. We're in a age, I think, where everybody thinks they're very self-aware. And We often are. We often are, as self-aware as we believe we are. And a lot of times, I know I even had this moment happen to me before, where sometimes people think things are normal. They think, yeah, this is just what it is. This is what mothers are like. You see jokes all the time about how mothers are cranky and mothers ruin the fun. Like, oh, wait, my level is different than y'all's? The
Hmm.
first thing I think starts with awareness of that, and just acknowledging that the mother wound does exist. I think after that, you have to come in with that self-compassion, especially when it's something that it feels like, "Dang, if I would have been knew this." I gotta 7 years. Sometimes we are hard on ourselves about it. And sometimes when we are trying to, for example, when we're trying to set boundaries, when we're trying to go no contact, when we're trying to be firm in what we say and do, and we fail, or, we went back a little bit, we kind of sidestep a little bit, we get really, really hard on ourselves instead of recognizing like you're new to this. You're trying. It's
Hmm.
not going to be perfect steps all the time. It's okay if you failed this time. Stand up stronger next time. Okay, maybe that was too big of a boundary. Let's start with a small boundary and build our way up. Give yourself some self compassion.
Yeah, self compassion can also look a little woo woo, and I think that's okay. Like, you're allowed to hug yourself, you're allowed to nurture yourself in the ways that you need to. You're allowed to take, in simple ways, take the extra time to make you that special meal that you always liked as a kid and it gives you comfort, but maybe it wasn't made enough. I don't know. Like little things like that, that you're almost reparenting and renurturing yourself in that process. And it's totally okay to do those things. I've told plenty of clients, like, hug yourself. No, I mean literally, seriously, hug
Mhm.
yourself and give yourself that compassion. Treat yourself nicely in more ways than one. And it's not just, getting a cupcake, but even stuff like, heck yeah, when you be like, you know what, damn it, nobody gave a shit about my birthday when I was a kid, and now I'm gonna care about my birthday. And I
Mhm.
want sprinkles. I want sprinkles on my ice cream. Get your sprinkles, Do those things for yourself that bring out that thing that was missing.
Yeah. Then, of course, boundaries, like as she was talking about earlier, learn how to set and maintain healthy boundaries. That's going to be a big part of this move. And it's not just boundaries with mother, like boundaries with whoever needs to have boundaries in your life, whether that be your friends, your partner, your mother, your job. Figure out where you are overextending yourself. Where, when you see their name on the phone, you sigh. Where you are like, I feel depleted after interacting. Figure out where that is and then just start with, okay, what's the thing about this that makes me feel exhausting? Break it down. Okay, it's talking. It is the guilt and the shaming. It is I feel like I put in more than they put in. Okay, well then how do you put in more than they put in? I give to them financially. Okay, do we need to have a boundaries around finances? Do we need to have a I'm only giving you $200 a year? Once you max out on that 200, I'll really help you figure out another way to solve these problems because you got to wait until next year. Whatever it is, figure out what is exhausting you and then work your way down and figure out how to put a boundary around that because that is going to be what helps you kind of just reclaim your peace.
And boundaries aren't always about telling people no. Sometimes it's just about saying yes to things that are actually important to you
Mm,
and setting things up around that time. If it's important to you to have, I don't know, so many hours of free time when you get off work,
mm,
setting up your day so that 5 o'clock, I'm walking up out this mug. But I
mhm,
also know that I'm gonna get here on time. I'm gonna really try to be productive because I don't know, I like going for a walk before the sun goes down. And I want to make sure that I have time to do that. It means saying yes to things that are important to you and taking up the space that you have in your life with things that you actually enjoy and want to do.
mhm,
Also, another way to work to heal these wounds is getting support, getting help, getting therapy to uncover some of these. I mean, we're talking about it, and hopefully, this episode helps bring some awareness, some of those things out. But also, there's nothing wrong with getting some additional help, have someone help you identify these things because these wounds get deep. And
mhm,
again, like we talked about in the beginning, it can feel very taboo to break down one, just family dynamics in general, but specifically ones that involve your mother. I love my mom. I have a great relationship with her, but yeah, I've definitely been in some therapy sessions where they were like, let's talk about that thing with your mom. And I was like, you better back up off my mama.
Mhm. Mhm.
She does no wrong. And I learned she does. She does do wrong. And being able to admit that and have conversations with her and all of those other things have helped to improve our relationship. But that took another person in a safe space,
Mm.
someone that I was able to trust in a safe space to bring those things up, because these are just not conversations we just have.
Yeah.
So yeah, get some extra support.
And I think the last one I really want to put out there is getting yourself some community, building yourself up a sisterhood, a brotherhood, or whatever hood you need, but getting you a good group of people that you can trust, that you feel safe with, and that you can open up to. Sometimes we really undervalue how important community is, how important it is to have people you feel like you can rely on, how important it is to feel like you have people you can talk to, there's people you can vent to. Especially nowadays, I feel like a lot of times people be like, I got my boo. It's my community. And what happens when boo the problem? What happens when boo is no longer that safe of a place? What happens when boo is
I got
not
my
there?
kids. Your kids are not your emotional support
They
people.
are not. Please stop using y'all children as therapy.
Please. You're creating mother wounds. But no, for real. But I would say, I know you said sister to brother, but I would say, yeah, community with women specifically. Like, it breaks my heart when I hear women who are like, I just don't like females like that.
Mhm.
Like, oh no, baby, what happened to you? Why do you have that viewpoint or that perspective? And even for men too, who just have this really strange relationship with women where they just feel like they're untrustworthy and they hate them and they do all these odd things. Like,
Mhm.
there's women out there who are trustworthy. Meet them, be friends
Mhm.
with them, spend time with them.
Heal first
A
before
lot.
you meet them and spend time with them.
Hmm?
If they could heal first before they go out and meet these women and
Yeah,
spend
do
time
all
with
the
them.
other things that we talked about first, and then and then find that community. But I say to say, just allow space to be able to have those types of relationships in your life. Not all women are untrustworthy just because your mama was. That's very unfortunate, but
Just the way you said it. It was like an act it was like you was trying to throw shade. It's okay.
no,
Like,
but
and then you pause, "Yeah, mama was." Like, it
I'm
was
just saying. I'm just saying.
yeah.
Yeah. So find that community with women and being able to, yeah, hear from them, bond with them. We need all the genders to be,
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, you need all sides of things, right? And so if you're significantly cutting yourself off from one because of something that you have not healed from, you're crippling yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah, so create space for those types of relationships and that type of community.
As we said that, I just remember we forgot one way of how it can manifest. I just want to throw that in there. But yeah, if you particularly are a woman, and you find that you are harsher on women than you are on men, their expectation out of your female friends is through the roof. Your expectation out of any man is barely off the floor. Like that is a way that it can manifest too. And that is something that, let's sit and talk about and look into. Why is it your friend can forget to text you happy birthday and you will end the friendship, but that man forgot your birthday 2 years in a row? If you recognize your expectations of men are minimal, but you're very harsh and critical of other women. That's the way it can manifest. That's not always the reason that happens. Other reasons can lead to that too, but that's definitely one of the ways that that can manifest as well. Anyways, That is all we have for today's episode. We hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you follow us on TikTok at She Wolf Alchemy Podcast or follow us on Instagram at She Wolf Alchemy. And be sure to leave a review wherever you are listening. Thanks. And we'll have another episode in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.